So I am what you would call an anxious pooper. I require complete solitude, preferably silence. I have lived with my wife for a few years now, and I'm pretty sure she has no evidence that I have ever pooped, and I intend to keep it that way. When I first moved to DC, which is about 15 years ago, I did not know a lot of people, and I thought a good way to meet people might be to join a church. And so I went to this church, and it was right before their annual Labor Day weekend retreat, and they were like, if you can take off Friday, you can do kind of our extended camping trip. It's a really great way to get to know other people. And I agreed, but I didn't really think it through, because for somebody with my particular condition, camping in general is hard, but camping with strangers is impossible. Days 1, 2, and 3 were not ideal, because in addition to being anxious, I'm also quite regular. But by the time day 4 had rolled around, the situation had grown dire enough that I decided to dart into the one-seater in the encampment and just hope for privacy. I know a lot of you have just eaten. I'm going to spare you some details here, but let's just say that I sat down and I did my business, and when I looked down, what I saw was a single specimen, but it was mighty, both in terms of length as well as girth. I was mortified, but if I am being truly honest with all of you, also a little proud. I went to flush away this evidence that I am a human that poops, and nothing happened. There was not a swirl, there was not an attempt, it was just like the toilet did not get the signal. So I did what we all do in that situation. I opened up the back of the toilet and I looked down, but there's not like a cheat code taped back there or anything that tells you what to do, so I put it back down. I thought about just making a break for it, but I wasn't entirely sure that there wasn't going to be somebody outside. And these are helpful church-going people. So if I was like, the toilet's broken, I didn't know that it wasn't going to be some guy who was like, let me see if I can fix it. And it was one of those toilets that didn't really have a lid that covers stuff. And so, he would go in and he wouldn't say anything out loud, but he would definitely tell other people. And I would go from being the new girl to the girl with the giant poops. I'm going to pause here and say that I feel like maybe up until now, most of you are with me with this story. We all have an embarrassing poop story. And I know that this is the point in time where I am going to lose you. Because I proceeded to make a series of unacceptable choices that I can only say were fueled by a combination of shame and fear. So here we go. I decided in that moment that under whatever circumstances necessary, I had to get rid of the poop. So I scanned the environment to look for my options. There was not a trash can. There was not a window, because I was like, man, I'll just toss a little fucker out the window. We'll be good to go. It's the woods. There are bears. It's fine. But there was a sink. And I thought, if I can just get this megaturd from the toilet to the sink, I can turn on some hot water. We'll be good to go. So having never touched my own poop before, I had to work through some stuff, but I also had to act quickly. So I grabbed a couple of pulls of toilet paper and I proceeded to make the transfer. And it was sturdy, so it survived the journey. I turned on the hot water and immediately realized that I did not know as much about the composition of poop as I should have before I committed to this course. Because the first couple of layers melted away as planned, but what emerged was a solid and not water-soluble granola core. This is when I began to have a full-on panic attack. Because it's one thing to be the girl with the giant poops, it's another thing to be the girl that shits in a sink. So luckily, our ancestors, trained our animal brains to get really creative under pressure. And so I looked down and I realized that the drain to the sink could be removed. And I thought, if I can just grab some more toilet paper, I can just drop it down and we'll be good to go. No one will be any wiser. So I grabbed some more toilet paper and proceeded with Operation Vertical Drop. But when I turned on the sink, instead of draining, it just slowly began to fill with brown stink water. And this is when I realized that, like, this is just going to be the room that I die in. Like, I'm not going out. Like, they're just going to be like, Rachel, like, we met her once. Like, she seemed nice. And then, like, she just disappeared. And so as my eyes began to fill with tears, as I just truly had no other plan, I scrolled and I saw that there was, in the corner of this bathroom, a plunger against the wall. And it was covered with cobwebs, but, like, didn't care. Like, getting bit by a black widow would be like a welcome exit from this situation. Like, it's a far less shameful way to go. And so I grabbed it and I turned it upside down and just began to jam the wooden rod down the sink until the granola turd was decimated. I turned on the water and the sink ran, and just barehanded now, you know, we've moved past at this point. I just start pumping soap and quite literally scrubbing the shit out of the sink, my hands, the plunger, all of it. And I leave. And of course there was nobody there, just to be clear. Just could have left and just left it to be somebody else's problem the whole time. But I kept my head held high because despite how gruesome the last probably 10 minutes had been, I had pulled it off. Or so I thought. So that night, final night of the trip, I walk into the communal bathroom, which I had so diligently avoided. And as soon as I open up the door, I am just hit by a very strong sulfur smell. And I see a woman come out of the shower, and she's got her towel wrapped around her, and she looks at another woman. She says, "Is the water okay with this facility? Like, it smells kind of funny." And the other woman, who had been one of the coordinators for the trip, was like, "Don't worry about it. This is one of those campsites. I've stayed here before. They have, 2 septic tanks." And so one is for everything that comes through the toilets and then the black water tank. And the other is everything that comes through the sinks and the showers. That's the gray water that they recycle back through. And so I immediately turned around because I knew I would not be brushing my teeth that night. And as I walked back out into the woods, I thought about all that had really transpired in the last 12 hours or so. I had gone from being the new girl to the girl with the giant poops, to the girl who shits in a sink, to the girl who shits on an entire congregation of people. And the term holy shit has had new meaning for me ever since. Thank you.